is Way Up with Angela Yee, and y'all know I keep on stressing the importance of voting. I even just hosted a mayoral debate watch party because I'm not going to lie, these debates have been, I think, more interesting than fictional TV, real life. And Michael Blake is here. He is running for mayor of New York City. Early voting started on Saturday. So let's get into it. By the way, love the purple, my favorite color.
I appreciate that. I didn't even know that, so I was ready. You know, I'm repping Northwestern, but now I know it's your favorite color, so we're rocking right here.
Now, I was disappointed that you weren't in that second debate that just happened, the last one.
Yeah, because, I won the first one, so they should have had me in both right there.
Yeah, you were definitely most talked about during that first debate. So, it's just interesting to me because I feel like your name has been buzzing, but I think it's a disservice not to see everybody in these debates as we're getting ready for.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like well, first, much love to you because you're always killing the game. So let me start right there.
Thank you.
The first debate, I've been telling people when you can have the New York Times, New York Post, Daily News all agree that one person won the debate. They all said I won the debate. That sent the message to the city. And I think there's a lot of people who, before that night, did not know my name, and they woke up the next day like, okay, there's a difference here. The second debate, the only reason we weren't on stage, quite frankly, was a miscommunication. Campaign Finance Board says raising on their public guidelines. They had internal guidelines that said raised. It was a question around finances. In terms of that, we should have been on stage. We feel pretty strongly about that. And even still, every single day since the debate, we've had people coming across the city like, what you did that first night, you have me focused now.
Right. Yeah.
Because people want to see someone being direct about what's happening, and they have not felt that at all. And I want to remind people, you don't have to go back to Cuomo just because you know his name. It's
interesting because the first time we really sat down, it was a conversation between some of the nominees, but it was early on at Brick.
Yeah, it was a dope forum. You did your thing.
Thank you. And it was basically just talking about the arts and how important that is for New York City. And so you definitely shined in that one as well. But I want people to know your background as far as where you've come from working with President Barack Obama to where we are today. If you had to give people a summary, because I think part of the issue I have is that, I hosted that debate watch party because I wanted people to really pay attention. It's hard to get people to watch the debates, and then it comes time to vote. They don't even know what ranked choice voting is. And I feel like there's been so much messaging going out to get people to understand what it is. And I just want to make sure that we're still pounding that message in. So for you, if you had to describe what your career has been like to now, just so people know who Michael Blake is, can you tell us?
Look, I start with full name is Michael Alexander Blake. Named after Jamaican politicians. My family's from Jamaica. I was one of two that was born here, so named after Michael. Blah blah blah. Like we on Eastern Parkway right now. Oxtail, rice, and pea vibes right now. So Michael Manley and Alexander Bustamante. That's who they named me after. Born Christmas night in the South Bronx, North Central Bronx Hospital, and PS 79 118 DeWitt Clinton. So I'm Bronx. I'm New York through and through in every possible way. My mom, 40 years, worked in manufacturing. She raised 4 boys. I'm the youngest. My daddy, God rest his soul, he was a janitor at St. Barnabas Hospital. This is what I know, right? And when I left here, I went to Northwestern, shout out to the purple out here, and I loved politics, and I still do. I still think politics is the best way to change the game at scale. The moment you're born to the moment you get called on home, there's nothing that happens in your life without politics.
I'm glad that you said that because some people feel like politics doesn't affect them. And some people also feel like it doesn't matter. What's going to happen is going to happen anyway, and that everything is pre-planned.
No, we're not here. We're not living in the Matrix right now, right? Like, we're watching this in real time. Like this foolishness of Trump is because people didn't vote. Right, the disaster we're watching. Right, same thing with Eric Adams. All this is happening because folks sat on the sidelines. So, I originally was focused on TV. My degree's in journalism, but I loved politics, and I had an internship with a state senator named Jeff Schoenberg. Woman walked in. She said, "If you don't help me, I'm gonna lose my home." We helped her keep her home. That turned everything around for me. I applied for a bunch of jobs, and then I was offered an opportunity for a training program led by Barack Obama when he was a senator, and I was one of 10 people he trained. So 2006. He had the Yes We Can program. He trained us on how to run campaigns. He sent me to Michigan. We won our state house races. And then 2007, I went to Iowa. I always tell people I was the other black guy in Iowa with Obama, right? We won, went to 7 more states. He brought me to the White House. I ran all his black outreach, his minority women business outreach at the White House.
Brothers Keeper.
MBK. I mean, that was our whole vibe. And I came home. I wanted to come home. I wanted to show these young cats on the block that you can grow up in the hood, go work in the White House, and come back home.
I do think it's important that we vote and support people who represent us for real, because
1,000%.
I think a lot of the disconnect when we see politicians is we're like, they have no idea who we are, what we go through, and sometimes people think it is all about money, and some of it is, like even being able to raise money to be able to run, that's not an easy thing to be able to do. I want to ask you this, because sometimes I myself think about when I see certain people, like Cuomo's been raising a lot of money, and clearly, like, for any politician, when someone is donating to your campaign, it does kind of mean that I feel like people donate because they are expecting something, right? And how does that work as a politician when people are supportive of you, but you have to tell them no?
Well, look, I mean, they're expecting you to do the right thing, right? We work for you. When someone gets elected to office, we work for you. And, they should have expectations. Expectations that you're going to have policies that are good. You're going to have expectations that you're going to do the right thing. And there should be also the expectation that I'm not going to agree with you every single time, and that's okay. I don't know any person that I agree with all the time, right? From my wife to my mama, ain't nobody in between that agree with me on everything, and that's okay. And
but you do tell your wife you're right all the time.
Oh, I'm very clear that I say I understand. Right, so I understand. I support the cause right here, right? So like, look, that is what should happen. And I think what's going on is people are so exhausted from politics. They were feeling that even before Trump. But Trump has taken it to a new level, that it's this zone of, well, we can't rock with any of y'all. And I keep trying to tell folks, don't let the small numbers who are doing it the wrong way distract you from those of us who are trying to do it the right way. And I'm running for mayor because we deserve better. And I want to lay out a real clear vision. Affordability is the biggest crisis that's happening in the city. Full stop. Cash is like, it's too expensive. And
it's even how you got into the game, right? Is a woman was about to lose her home, and that's why.
That was it.
And I want to talk about this balance, too, here in New York, because like you said, affordability is an issue. Affordable housing is a major issue. But at the same time, there's also the issue of some people feel like some tenants are like squatting. They have too many rights. It's hard to evict people. Even this crisis I'm seeing of houses and apartment buildings sitting vacant because of people being locked into, just basically not being able to raise the rent. And they feel like, I'm not even going to fix this up. It's not worth it for me. If somebody is not going to be paying rent that would even help me be able to pay my taxes and maintain a property. And so what's the balance there that can happen?
Everybody deserves to have a home you can afford. And everybody deserves quality. My mama was homeless in Jamaica. We sold dinners to pay rent in the Bronx. Like, you got to have that kind of connection. And so when I talk through how do we do this better, I think we should have a local median income, because area median income is not working.
Okay.
Right? Because area median income includes Westchester County, Suffolk, Rockland. I'm not trying to cast shade on other places, but it doesn't make sense that counties outside of New York City impact what's going on here. We should end using credit scores for rent and home ownership applications. We should increase the income limits, because too often you have to make so much or make just enough to get access to a home. To me, that's wrong. You take those kinds of steps, then people have a better chance. Now, the next piece of this is you have a lot of people, a lot of these landlords that are holding on to properties and not doing something that's right with that. And I said there should be a vacant apartment and a vacant commercial tax. If this is not your primary residence, if you have a place here and you're not living here, then there should be a tax on that, so that either you come back, so that it's not just sitting there, and or you give us revenue for the city. That just makes sense to me.
What about a person who is not, like, say it's somebody that's like, they have a couple of properties, it's all their money that they're invested in, they have a mortgage that they have to pay, and it's really hard because people aren't paying their rent, or how does that, because I've seen that happen too. And I've seen people like actually lose their homes because of that. Because I do feel like I agree, definitely has to be affordable housing. But then there are some people who they don't have a lot and this is all they have. And now it's like, I can't get these squatters out, or this person's, what's the balance with that? Because I do feel like there has to be something that can also help somebody who this is like their income. They saved all their life for this. They've taken out loans, they refinance, whatever it is, and now they're in danger.
1,000%. Look, you can't have someone that's just squatting, not paying. People out here not paying for months. That's just wrong, right? There's a difference on, I'm struggling with this bill and I'm going to be behind on it like 2 weeks because something happened that's an emergency in my life, right? Versus, I'm just not paying you and you're going to take me to court. We need to change these laws so that you can't have someone just sitting there not paying you. That doesn't make any logical sense. And I think what has happened in the last few years is that policies went too far left, right? To the zone of, we're just going to protect this tenant, even if they've literally not paid for months. No, that's crazy to me. That doesn't make any sense, because what we're doing then is saying to these homeowners, which is not always these massive commercial homeowners out here, it's the small mom and pop property owners who are like, yo, you're hurting me.
Right.
Right. And so that has to be that balance. If someone clearly has the means to pay and they're choosing not to pay, no, they got to be held accountable on that. And it's like, no, you got to go. Right. I don't want anyone in my crib just sitting up in my crib who's not paying me. That doesn't make
happened.
like what are we like what are we doing out here, right? And to that degree, housing and childcare are the two main expenses happening in the city. And the deeper dynamic that's getting even more real that people don't want to talk about when you talk about the squatters and homeowners, it's also 1 out of 8 kids going to New York City public schools right now are homeless.
That's insane.
Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. And when we talk about the homeless dynamic, it's not even just like people think about it like, well, does that mean someone sitting on the street? No, I'm talking about the cats that are bouncing around because they can't afford it.
Right.
Because their families can't afford it right now. And so to this degree, if we don't fix housing and you don't get true affordable childcare, then we're playing games.
So how do we do that?
You elect Michael Blake mayor. I was ready for that there. Right. Look,
that's how we do it.
I'm just saying. Look, there are things that can happen right now in this city that there's not a good reason why we're not doing it. When people talk to me about ending credit scores for home ownership, which hands down is the policy I say the most that people love the most.
Okay.
They're like, okay, help me understand it. We're already doing that a little bit right now, Angela. It's happening. Housing Preservation Department is doing a pilot right now on this. So there's no reason why we can't go further and just say we're just going to stop this practice. Credit scores, that came up like that's 1989. This is a young thing.
Yeah. I had to get my dad to co-sign for my first apartment that I ever got.
That's exactly my point.
Fresh out of college, my credit was
wild. Like, wow. And like cats are out here on something like, okay, so let me get this straight. So I can pay the rent. I have the money to pay the rent. I can pay the mortgage, the money to pay. But the reason why my costs are higher is because I missed a phone bill 20 years ago.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's one. Next piece on this. I do believe there should be a guaranteed income around housing and childcare to these expenses, because even if someone doesn't have a child, you know someone that's impacted by that. And if someone has the ability to be like, you know what? I'm able to go out to that restaurant and be out there a little bit later. I'm able to work a little bit later. I'm able to do these because I know the kids are good. Changes everything else, right? And so these are policies that are in control. And there's 11 people that are running for mayor, 11 Democrats that are running for mayor. Let's be real clear about that, because there's other cats that are running that are not running as Democrats.
Independent and
Eric Adams,
Republican,
right? So for those of us that are running as Democrats, right, who are for real about this, I'm saying that you have a choice, that you do not have to just go back to a name of Andrew Cuomo just because you know that name. Real talk, black and brown folk who are right now trying to figure out what to do, look at my track record on actually helping the hood. That's what I want you to be assessing.
Right.
Because if you want to understand how can you trust what's happening, rock with the people who rock with you. And I tell folks, during COVID, Cuomo was killing people. I was feeding people. There's a difference between us.
Let me tell you something. The fact that he's even running
is he only running because he wanted to run for president. Let's just be honest about this.
Well, we see who's president now, so it feels like he could be president.
That's it.
There's no standard.
That's it. I mean, just like I think.
I mean, I laugh, but it is a really wild, crazy thing. Just even, I think the treatment of women,
1,000%.
That's been an issue. The fact that we can overlook that and be okay with it. Yeah. And I also feel like people think, because I saw him in the debate saying that was disproven, that wasn't true.
It's not the case. So first debate. Like, I think a reason why we've gotten so much love the last 2 weeks is I called him out and I was real clear on the facts, right? He still has not said it didn't happen. I just want to make sure we're real clear about that. He keeps saying you can't prove that it didn't happen.
Right. And that what didn't happen?
That these 13 women who said that there was sexual assault that was happening and a toxic work environment. He's never said it didn't happen. He's like, oh, they dismissed the charges. Okay, Diddy, relax. That's because that's pretty much what he's trying to do right now. That's what he's trying to do right
Dismissing the charges does not mean.
Doesn't mean.
And did they dismiss?
There was some that were dismissed because some of the women said, I'm not pursuing the charges any longer. Right.
Okay.
So it's not that it didn't happen.
And
right?
that's also very difficult for women too. I want to put that out there for people who think that, oh, this is a money. Nobody, I feel like, wants to be in that spotlight, because the amount of threats that people get, the amount of ways that this can actually ruin your life and not let you pursue other opportunities because people look at you like you're a problem. Yeah. And it's a hard thing to prove.
When we put into context, it's a hard thing to prove, and it would be a tense situation anyway. But these are women who came after a multiple time elected governor, former attorney general, whose daddy was a governor. So it's like, once you step out there, you understand you're going after the name. Mm-hmm. So they weren't just doing this casually. Right. So you have this. You have a man whose policies led to 15,000 people dying in nursing homes because of a book deal. Right. You have a man who in 2008, during the presidential campaign, says you don't and shouldn't have to shuck and jive. Clearly, that was talking about Barack Obama. But then he was saying in the debate, I didn't offend Barack Obama. Well, who the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Like, come on. Let's stop. Let's stop. So we're in a zone now where the fear of Trump is leading to people saying, well, maybe we need a tough man. Maybe we need someone who's tough. And I was like, no, you need who's best. And as the only one in the race, I've actually defeated Trump when I was vice chair of the DNC. Mm-hmm. Let's think about the policies. Today, Trump out here, in the last few days, this foolishness, talking about we're going to send in more ICE to Democratic cities.
Right, only Democratic
cities, right? We're seeing what's going on, right? Bill Ackman just gave Cuomo another $250,000, the main person focused on ending DEI. These cats don't give a damn about y'all. We just got to be clear about this. So at the end of the day, I'm presenting myself as someone that's a different option and saying, I have White House, State House, local experience. We know what it's like to actually lead. If you want a new generation of leadership that is ready immediately, you got one choice. But you can also rank other people.
Yes. And I see that you and Mom Donnie have now cross-endorsed each other. Which is, and it is ranked choice voting. So just so people are aware, you get to choose 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you just have to know who's your first choice, second choice, third choice. One thing I've been seeing is a lot of people who are running saying, whatever you do, don't rank Cuomo.
Yeah, dream.
And that's been the main message that's been getting out there. So when it comes to cross-endorsing, I don't know that I've seen that too much, or if I just haven't been paying attention. No. Well, first, your promos are helping out here. So please keep letting people know, because a lot of folks don't understand ranked choice voting still, right? So just so everybody's clear, New York City, we don't have runoffs like we used to have back in the day. Right. So you're not going to show up on June 24th and then say, oh, I'm going to show up 3 weeks later. We don't do that anymore. Showing up one time. So either you're going to vote absentee in the mail, you're going to vote early until the 22nd, or you're voting on election day. There's 11 Democrats on the ballot. You can choose up to 5. So whoever is your first choice, that should be your first choice. I want New York City. I want everybody. I want you to rank me, Michael Blake, as your first choice. Mm-hmm. I'm real clear about that. If for some reason I'm not your first choice, then I want to be your second choice. Right.
If for some reason I'm not your second choice, I want to be your third choice. And the way it works is, if no one gets 50% of first choice ballots, and that's the only thing that's going to be announced June 24th. Only things going to be announced are first choices. If no one has that, the lowest vote getter gets knocked out, and it keeps simulating after that point. So, case in point, we got Hannah here, we got Raven here, Mike here, we got Kevin as well. Dan, that's perfect. We got 5 right here, right? If for some reason Hannah was the lowest vote getter, and then Raven was after that. If Michael votes for Hannah as the first choice and then votes for Raven as the second choice, if Hannah gets knocked out, my vote then goes to Raven.
Sorry, Hannah.
We love you. That's my niece. But I'm just saying, for the example, she going to give me a look afterwards like, why I got voted up there? Why I got knocked out? Yeah, just God damn, right? Dan's like, I'm cool with that. And so when people start to hear that, they're like, oh, okay, now I understand why my second and third choice matters.
Yeah, because I will say for some people, they might be like, okay, I like Michael Blake, but if he doesn't get it, I wouldn't mind Mom Donnie being it, or I wouldn't mind Adrian Adams.
So to that happen, you got to rank them.
Yeah, that's how you rank them.
You have to rank them, because if you don't and your person gets knocked out, your vote's done. And I don't think a lot of people internalize that. So there's a lot of cats. This is why Cuomo's in trouble right now. Because I think there's a lot of people that are voting for Cuomo who are not ranking him, and he won't be able to gain enough votes. Because let's presume Cuomo's at 30%. But if no one else is ranking him, he can't gain any more.
I mean, and it's interesting because this is one election that I really don't know what's about to happen.
It's wild.
Because I think for a while it felt like Cuomo was going to win just when he announced it. We all knew he was about to announce it. Yeah. But I feel like there's been so much strong pushback, and I don't think that Donald Trump helps the situation
at all.
It actually hurts it because there is a lot of like, ooh, if this happens, this isn't New York.
At all. I think we're in a scenario now. When you were saying earlier that the coalition, so Dream, so the don't rank evil Andrew for mayor. That's what it is now, right? It used to be don't rank Eric and Andrew for mayor, and then, right? So everybody understands that. So whenever you hear and see Dream, there have been 5 people that have been put a part of that coalition. So it's been myself, Zoran Mamdani, Adrian Adams, Brad Lander, Zelnor Myrie. That's been the 5 that people are talking about for Dream. And so what I'm saying is, I want everybody listening, Michael Blake, rank me first. I'm the 9th one on the ballot. If I'm not your first, I want to be your second. But make it a point that your Dream coalition gets ranked, because that gives the best chance for one of those 5 to win.
You just brought up ICE. And so I want to talk about that because I do think this is such a humanitarian crisis. Seeing how human beings are being treated, it's been absolutely heartbreaking for me to watch that. Like, I literally walk past people on the street and I see them like at hotels. And I've also heard so many stories about kids not showing up to school, about people not being able to go to work, families being torn apart. And I do think a lot of the issue is that the policies are just not there. There has to be a path towards citizenship, but it feels like Trump just wants to get rid of all black and brown people.
Oh, yes,
and
that's clear.
White South Africans, come on in. You're good to go. We got to make sure you get whatever it is that you need. But when it comes to black and brown people, whether or not you are here legally, whether or not you're on the path to citizenship, whether or not you're trying to do the right thing, it doesn't matter. And everybody's in fear of what's going to happen. Now, for New York to fight against that, because I do feel like New York is a place that we do try to protect people.
100%.
What do you think can happen as mayor, and what type of power would you have to be able to help?
Well, first, I think it's important that we make the immigration conversation expanded out, because we've allowed MAGA Republicans to make it a Latino, non-Latino conversation, right? They try to block it all in. And so I always say, as someone whose family's from Jamaica, it's Latino, it's Caribbean, it's African, they're all of us.
They're getting rid of everybody.
They're going after everybody, right? So let's be clear. So to that first piece, ban ICE. Full stop. ICE is only permitted if there is a signed judicial warrant. There should be no other time when ICE is entering places. Now, as mayor, we can make sure we maintain a sanctuary city status, which we need to. And the primary reason why we have sanctuary cities is that then you're not turning over information to the feds that should not be going to them. The feds can fine you anyway, right? There's no reason to give them more access, as we're seeing through this Trump-Elon foolishness, right? Next piece. We need to make sure that schools, places of worship, community centers are designated as safe havens. Because if you do that designation, then again, they can't just roll in. You take those steps, then also hire more attorneys to represent our immigrants at these immigration hearings. Because too often people are going to these hearings and they don't have someone protecting them.
Right.
Then it's a wrap, right? You had about 180,000 who did not have someone representing them. 180,000, right? Just right there. You don't have a chance at that point. So to that degree, those are steps that we can take immediately, and that's what I would take as mayor. Now, the deeper piece that people are regularly asking, how do you pay for all this when Trump tries to cut your money? Vacant apartment commercial tax, that by itself gets you close to $2 billion. We have $2 billion right now of unclaimed fees and fines, primarily from parking tickets. I don't want to make folks nervous because of parking tickets, right? But I'm just going to say.
Let me pay mine.
I'm just saying about, I see you, Dan. Dan's like, right? I'm just saying, right? About 1.4 of that $2 billion is just parking. I just want people to, the money's out here, right? NYPD, last year, some would say it was 1.3, some would say 1.4 billion dollars of excessive overtime that NYPD was paid for overtime. So we have the money to make sure we're protecting our immigrant communities and protecting all of us. And then lastly, that means stopping this nonsense that we keep hearing where folks are like, well, if you help the immigrants, you're going to be hurting me.
Yeah, that's the main thing I want to say is people feel like, well, what's going on with taking care of New Yorkers who don't have a place to live, who are struggling with housing, who are struggling with money, with childcare, and all of those things. Yeah. People feel like that takes away if we have money to pay. And I see this quite frequently on my timeline. Yeah. Because I still am on X, and I don't know why I see certain things that I see. But anyway, I see people saying...
Elon trying to drive some stuff to you, okay.
All the time.
All the time.
But what I see is people saying, well, I don't have housing, but you guys are providing hotels for immigrants.
So this is the epitome of the mastery of Republican messaging, right? That they have allowed us to believe that in a city of New York City, where we have a $115 billion budget that was this large before the migrant situation, that somehow you not having heat, hot water, better schools, better jobs for decades is because migrants started showing up last year. That don't make any damn sense, like in any regard. So the reality is it's about priorities and lack of leadership. And I will remind people, one of the reasons I'm running for mayor is the day that Eric Adams was on the plane to fly to D.C. to meet with the White House, where he was taking selfie videos about how he was going there to talk about the immigrant crisis. He did not do that meeting because his fundraiser had been raided, and he came back to New York. So whenever I hear this notion of D.C. is the reason why this is not happening, yo, my man, you literally canceled on the White House because your staff was being raided. So fall back. Right. So when we're in this zone of what are we doing here, how do you help our immigrants? Pay our nonprofits on time that are helping our immigrant communities. How do you help our immigrants? Make sure that when people are coming here, they're actually getting supported and protected, because this notion of like they're all criminals is just nonsense.
At all.
Foolishness.
Listen, we have more criminals here than, and I think in general, most people want to do the right thing. And it's so interesting to me to see people crying on social media about, oh, you know, I voted for Trump, but I didn't think that he would be deporting the people that work for my company. I thought he would only be deporting criminals. To them, everyone's a criminal.
Oh, yeah. To them, that's who they are.
They could look at you and be like, yeah, you could tell he's...
You got to go. That's who they are. It's important. I think we've treated life too often in this current social media environment in a 2025 future beyond mindset. Let's make sure we take a step back. Donald Trump and his family. His family is included in KKK write-ins. That's not me saying that. That's public information. Him and his daddy were sued because they wouldn't give black and brown people housing.
Absolutely.
He took out a full-page ad against the now exonerated 5.
And still acts like he wasn't wrong for that.
Still, like legit, like that was his
Still,
doing.
to this day, has never said, I was wrong.
Never said I was wrong.
I'm sorry.
At all. Led a birther movement against Barack Obama. Said his main policy priority was to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out, the criminals, the rapists. So when people are like, I don't know how we got here, this is who this man is.
Yeah. For people who are surprised, this is not what I voted for.
What you're surprised about. This is who he is. And so connecting it to New York City, when you have someone in Eric who is rocking with this, talking about we're going to allow ICE into Rikers, that we're going to allow these things to happen, is crazy.
Do you think Eric Adams was always like this, or do you think something changed?
I think when you have someone who was a registered Republican under Giuliani as a former NYPD captain who has had the increase of unconstitutional stop and frisk, that did not just happen this year. That's been consistent. Eric is who he is.
Because I felt like as Brooklyn Borough president, I had high hopes for Eric Adams. I think a lot of us did, but I don't know when things, I don't know.
Eric, I mean, look, Eric ran unopposed for borough president. Eric ran unopposed for state senate. I think, coming back to the ranked choice conversations, I think if we all did a better job 4 years ago of communicating about options, Eric wouldn't have won. He barely won 4 years ago. And I just think that what we are watching right now, especially in that he's now running as an independent.
Do you think he's even in the conversation to be mayor again, or you think that's...
I think the fact that Donald Trump could win 2 out of 3 times, it's impossible for someone to say someone can't win. I think it's very unlikely.
Right.
But I do think New York City needs to really internalize. Eric Adams made a choice that put him in this situation, and then made a choice to run as an independent because he knew he couldn't win as a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be telling you all you need to know about where he stands, right? Because if he thought I could still win this thing, then run your race, right? And the notion of sitting on the sidelines in this way is kind of crazy. And so what I say to people is, you want a different choice. You want to have a black candidate that's ready. You want to have someone who's a son of immigrants. You want to have someone who's a husband, bonus father on the block. I've done this, and this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go to Andrew Cuomo. You don't have to go to Eric Adams. You can choose Michael Blake, and then you should rank the rest of your slate so you actually have 5 people that believe in what you're trying to say right now.
What do you think about City of Yes?
City of Yes didn't go far enough. City of Yes and City for All, and they reframed it, the vision of it, of needing to build more housing. The vision of it is right, but they didn't execute it well. I think at the end of the day, you have about 550,000 units you need right now to address the affordability crisis. In about 10 years, it's about 965,000. For us to achieve that, you have to build. So I've always said, you have to build more units to address affordable housing. It's linear, right? However, I'm also saying you must have local median income, because it doesn't matter if you build if the rates are still the same.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And City of Yes didn't fix that. So they didn't fix the main problem of affordability. So you didn't build enough that you need, and you didn't change the formulas.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that a City of Yes? How's that City for All? That doesn't make sense to me. And it's things like that when people are saying, yo, what are y'all politicians doing? Right? I'm saying to you, I can't afford this. And your win, your big win that they're out here talking about, didn't fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, it doesn't make sense to me. So when we talk through what are we trying to make happen, what we need to be making happen is build responsibly, have the incentives for landlords and developers who are doing it the right way. Because I do think you have to have an economic incentive.
Yeah.
And if they do it the right way, then you keep your incentive. And if you don't, revoke it.
And the right way is for them to have a certain percentage of affordable housing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That is specific to the middle class in a very real way. Right now, we've incentivized a system where you have to be essentially poor enough for them to say, you know what, I'm going to do it based upon area median income or market rate. If you're in between,
mm-hmm.
you're pretty much jammed up.
Right.
And so to me, incentivize to build towards the middle class. Why are so many people working in New York, but they living in Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania? They're like,
absolutely.
I cannot afford this. I want to be in New York, but I can't. Right. And a lot of it is because of just, quite frankly, just dumbass policies
mm-hmm.
that just don't make logical sense. We have a scenario right now where we know you do 3 or 4 specific things. You change the game immediately. But we're not doing it because of lack of leadership. We're not doing it because people want to be aligned to these developers, these large-scale developers. And when you ask me about City of Yes and other policies, I'll even switch it to NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, public
mm-hmm.
housing. You had cats right now who were arrested and have lost their jobs because they were banking in bribes to not fix units. Like, your job was to actually fix these units.
Right.
And they weren't doing it. So, like, the scenario that we're in right now is that people are not helping the people. And I try to give real practical examples. I think we should have a technology for good that every single resident should be able to track how their ticket is closed out for repairs in their home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
and that should be public so that, you can see who's
so you
not
can see
doing
who's
what
not
they're
doing
doing.
anything.
Yeah.
I can order food, a flight, a car, an appliance. I can do all that on my phone to my house right now. But I can't track in one place how you fix something in my home in a service. Again, doesn't make sense.
You know what I want to ask you too? A casino in New York City.
Yeah.
We've been seeing all these bids going in. Is it Hudson Yards? Is it Times Square? Yeah. What do you think about a casino in Midtown?
I think it makes a lot of sense, whether it be Midtown or out in Queens. Queens definitely, there's space that would make sense because they've been able to demonstrate that. Mm-hmm. Data point, like the U.S. Open, I've seen this the last few years. The U.S. Open in that 2-week period gets more foot traffic and attendance than the Yankees and Mets get through their home games.
Okay.
Right. So, like, we know they can handle that kind of quantity.
Yeah, because I was thinking Midtown is going to be crazy.
It'll be crazy. So I think you got to look at other places, maybe outer boroughs. To me, creating a casino where you clearly will generate revenue, right? People are grown. If I can trust people to go play the lotto at the little bodega and go get their big red, right, and do whatever they're doing. For me to then say at the same time, I'm not trusting you to go to a casino, that doesn't make logical sense to me, right? So we could get revenue. People can exercise their rights as adults responsibly. You naturally will then have restaurants and other commercial activity that would happen there. Why not do this? And I think a lot of times what's happening is people are like, well, I don't want that in my area.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you don't want more money in your area. You don't want more foot traffic in your area. You don't want more positive benefit in your area. But we're acknowledging that we don't have enough money for the services we need. Doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of that is just poor messaging. And this is a scenario where not only do you need to have the right policies, but you have to have better messengers to get people to see there are benefits to this. It may seem very disparate, but I actually treat it very similar to the Rikers conversation, because we need to close Rikers, but we need borough-based jails.
Yeah. And
folks be like, I don't want a borough-based jail. So I was like, okay, so then where are these people going to go?
Yeah, because they've been talking about closing Rikers for so long now. And
yeah.
It's like, okay. And you know what I do want to ask you, as a Brooklyn resident and a New York, lifelong resident.
That's right.
I want to talk about a lot of the businesses closing, because that is one thing that I hear. I have a business in Brooklyn.
Coffee uplifts people.
Come
on.
We
pulled up there with our crew. We did an event about a few weeks ago, so shout out to you again.
Thank you. And we've been seeing a lot of businesses in the neighborhood closing, which has been really tragic and sad. There's places that have been like neighborhood, spots for so long. Yeah. We've seen Bedvine close. Yeah. We've seen the Grill in Park Slope close. We've seen Lovers. Just so many different places.
I just saw I think Night Market is about to close. I just saw that earlier today in BK, which is like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild what's happening right now. What is going on with our small businesses? Because we all know that is the heartbeat of New York City, but it's been really challenging. And I have to say, as a business owner myself, it has been really challenging with the cost of goods going up, people not wanting to spend as much money as they wanted to, but then also with gentrification, people in the neighborhood complaining.
More than half of Americans do not have $500 in their account if an emergency happens. So I want to start there to your question. More than half of Americans don't have $500 if an emergency happens. So when we talk about for small business, when small businesses are waiting to get paid from the city government, when small businesses are battling terrible regulation and red tape, when small businesses are not having people address the mental health crisis so that you have people defecating and then pissing on your sidewalks and kicking in windows, right? When you have a scenario where people don't have enough money to spend the way they normally did, where they're saying, I just got my check, and 2 days later, I don't know how I'm making it for the next 12 to 13 days. All of that is intertwined, that we have to help more small businesses. And as someone who runs small businesses myself, we have Atlas Strategy Group, we have our effort at Kairos. Like I know this myself. You have to understand that all these pieces need to have a mayor that's actually helping you. And it may seem disconnected, but in this environment, I do believe being a immigrant of color who runs a business also makes me uniquely qualified, because I have felt the ramifications of the Trump agenda, of contracts being canceled because people are afraid of DEI and what that may mean to them, or folks saying, you know what, I don't have enough money to be the customer that I used to be, so I can't pull up at your storefront, right? I can't shop the way I used to because I just don't have it like I used to, because they just cut off my deal out here.
And it's hard because coffee beans cost more, say for us. So 100%. Now we're paying way higher prices.
Paying much more.
And then who do we pass that cost on to?
Fundamental.
And so it's just a circle.
It's a vicious cycle based upon a man who's creating policies and stating policies that are hurting us, right? And so when you intertwine that, then it's like, okay, how do we fill that gap? We have $3.1 billion in cash reserves right now in the city, not including pensions. So I'm just talking about in that rainy day. There are some in the race who are saying we shouldn't touch that at all. I completely disagree with that, because I'm in a zone. We are in a cost of living emergency right now.
Yeah, it is a rainy day.
Like right now.
Every weekend for the past 12 weeks.
It's pouring out here. And to the small businesses, right? Look, yours is a perfect example because you're right there on the corner, right? So when you have a spot right on the corner, clearly y'all know I've been there because I know exactly the vision right there. Like when you have a spot right on the corner, and especially when you have a coffee spot with so much glass like that, like at any moment, if someone acts a fool,
it's happened,
changes the dynamics immediately.
Right.
immediately. Because now folks are like, okay, well, hold on, do I pull up? What's going on? Now you got to pay expenses in repairing this. And the ramifications and the cycle of that all intertwine. So for me, how do we help small businesses? One of the specific things, I do think 1,000 mental health professionals on the streets and subways actually fixes this, because then you do two things. The people who need help, who are creating challenges out here, as well as you can then have NYPD with body cameras on, do more walking patrol. It calms things down.
You take the subway?
1,000%.
Yeah, me too.
1,000%. I'm on that 2-5 regularly.
It'd be wild sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Let me tell you.
As much as the MTA is saying they need to fix the trains and they want us to take the train more, it is definitely sometimes I'm like, ooh, today was.
it's and you got to think about these things, and
I do.
You be like, okay, let me get this straight. So like, okay, my man that's out here, no shirt, no pants, just sitting on there, like, okay, all right, and I'm wondering how's this gonna go out here, right?
Right.
Which impacts small business, impacts because the worker's like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I got to make this move this way. This morning, I was making moves down here. Had to make the decision quick. Okay, how do I get down here best? Best way was taking the D from 161 down to 59th right now. Well, pause. That sounded crazy, but I understand. But like the reality is, right. So like,
okay, it's Pride Month.
Fall all the way back. Okay. So like, we out here right now, Brooklyn and BX out here. Okay. So it's like, it's that quick moment of like, all right, it would be more expensive, more traffic, more chaos going that way.
Right.
Let me ride this train. But I ride the train, and you've seen some things.
I definitely do. My friend Jasmine, she comes from D.C., and I take her on the train with me. She actually enjoys taking the train because she's not from here, so it's not like, and she's like, oh my God, Angela, you're smoking crack. I'm like, girl, just look the other way.
Just keep it moving.
Just mind your business.
Just mind your business. Yeah. Don't get involved. Don't ask questions.
Don't try to help.
No, just keep your eyes locked in right now.
But I know that's also another issue that the MTA is having with people not paying their fare.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's caused huge financial issues for them.
We got to do, look, I think there's 3 things we got to do. One, you got to help people make more money. Right? Like,
but it be people who make money that's not, it's
but that's the
the
next piece on
majority
that.
of people is people with a Starbucks and jumping the train.
But that's the next piece. Help people make more money, then actually change these laws in Albany for repeat offenders so that like, if cats are regularly jumping turnstiles, I think you can give someone a summons made the first time, and if you say they do it regularly, I do think you got to.
Because it's hard because there's no one there.
You got to hold people
a
accountable.
lot of times. Yeah.
Because but the cops are not doing things. They see anything, they're like, yo, I'm good.
Because I've seen people say, why would I pay my fare? Nobody else paid before me. I'm going to stop doing that.
Yeah, which and the cops that are there are effectively saying, well, why would I waste my time doing this?
It's a lot of paperwork.
And they're going right back out. So it's like, okay, you consistently jumping these turnstiles, you consistently doing this. Nah, okay, I give you a summons the first time. Now, I'm not someone that's saying you got to ticket someone every single time for every single thing. I think we got to, you don't want to over criminalize. But if someone's doing it 5, 6, 7 times, yo, my man, let's have this conversation. Like,
right.
what are we doing right here?
Yeah.
Right. But then I think the other piece, and you're starting to see this at some of these train stations, we have a 1900 MTA in 2025, right? Like, it's so arcane. I mean, we want faster trains, we got to have better signal system. That's a whole other piece. But like, actually have turnstiles where it's a little bit higher.
I saw that, yeah.
So that you can't be out here just jumping, right? So if someone tries to go to the gate, if you have an officer there, and then you change the laws so that repeat offenders are not able to just walk away easily, then people won't think twice. Because cats are right now effectively saying, I'm going to do this because there's no accountability you're going to have. And the cops are effectively saying, I'm not going to risk losing my job because you jumped a turnstile and you're going to be back out tonight. Doesn't make sense. And again, I just think it's a scenario where our policies didn't make logical sense.
Yeah, you got a lot of work. I feel like aside from COVID, this is one of the craziest times to be mayor of New York. It's just because there's so many different challenges now with the presidency and bumping heads with that, and just the needs that we have right now, the financial crisis that we're in.
Yeah.
Just so many different things. And even back to the small businesses, gentrification has, I feel like in Bed-Stuy, from what I see and have experienced, people calling, they're not from the neighborhood, but they're here and they're making a lot of complaints. But it's like, Best Eye, like we outside.
We outside. It could be Best Side. It could be South Bronx.
Yeah.
Like it could be.
Flatbush.
All the, you already know. We got a lot of love. Well, Flatbush showing us a lot of love. Y'all gonna see us out here a lot these next few days. It's I go back to one of the reasons why I decided to run. Mm-hmm. It's not just you electing someone for 2025, right? It's come January 1st, 2026, given everything we've talked through, who is best prepared and has the best vision for what's coming. And we have a man in D.C. who is making it very clear he does not give a damn about New York City. And he's going to attack us every possible way. So you have that. You have a financial crisis. You have a mental health crisis. You got all these different things happening. Going back to an Andrew Cuomo is not the answer. Mm-hmm. That is not the answer. You got to pick someone and pick people who are actually showing you. And what I say to folks, look at the track record, look at the vision. During COVID, we partnered with World Central Kitchen and small businesses. Shout out to Bistro, Bronx Draft House. We fed folks across New York City, right? That's what we did. Think about what we're trying to do for these kids. Civics, financial literacy, mental health. Talk through the mental health conversation we just had about public safety, mm-hmm. right? Like, and then the credit scores. Right. I think credit scores and changing income limit, you change the game immediately. That's the vision I want to have. And I keep telling folks, you want to see what we're doing, go to our website, BlakeForNYC.com. They'll be able to see all that there. But if you want to change the game, you have to change the mayor.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Michael Blake, for coming through. Who's your 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Well, I said Zoran's my 2.
Right.
I've been clear about that. I know who are in those other 3 spots.
Okay.
I'm still deciding on order, and I'm not trying to be evasive on the question.
I want to know, all right, who's in the other 3 spots in no particular order?
So Adrian, Zelnor, Brad, mm-hmm. Right now, those are there.
Okay.
Scott might sneak in somehow, right? So we're still figuring that out. I really do want to see how people make some decisions and answers this week.
Right.
Right. Like you can't watch what's going on in L.A. and not think, that could happen here. So what are you saying about this?
Those are all people I like that you said that, as I'm trying to put together my starting 5.
You got to find your 5. I want to be your number 1. I'm trying to be you got a number 1 yet, Angela?
I don't know yet. I told you that's why I've been paying attention to everything, talking to everybody. Okay. I've been doing my research because I like to go in with my plan set. Because we're not just voting for mayor either.
That's right.
So we just have to make sure we know exactly what we're doing.
All the things. Mayor, borough president, comptroller, public advocate, mm-hmm. city council races. And in some parts of the city, they also have district leader races happening. So there's a lot that's going on.
Go see what's on that ballot first.
Find
NYC
ballot.
Votes.
Go to NYC Votes. NYC Votes has also individual videos for us. But I'm also going to make a plug. There's a great quiz on the city in Gothamus. They made avatars. It actually is pretty dope. Where you can type in, it has the questions, and then it pops up the percentage match to the candidate.
Oh, okay. I like that.
It's really, really dope.
Yeah, because I'm so torn right now because I do think there's some great candidates. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what order I'm putting things. I know who I'm not voting for.
Who you not voting for? Come on,
let's talked about this. I'm definitely not putting Cuomo in my top 5.
Can't.
Yeah, so that's I'm a woman.
Can't.
So that alone is reason enough.
Can't. No Cuomo, no Paperboy Prince.
I thought you were gonna do a rhyme with that.
See again. Yo, you already been out of pocket once in this conversation. That's what y'all here doing right now. So again, don't listen to Angela right there. That was good right there. You can pick 5 people. Mm-hmm. Like I said, NYC Votes. Again, I'm not just saying this because you've been killing the game here. You've been a necessary voice in getting people to understand ranked choice voting.
Yes. Well, no, thank you. I appreciate it. That is my goal. That's why I was like, let's have a debate party. Let's talk about it. Let's watch it as a family. We got to watch all of this because I think people go in there, like you said, and they don't know who the candidates are. Yeah. And it's so important to look for yourself and hear the words come out of people's mouths 1,000%. And then hold them accountable afterward.
Hold me accountable. Elect me mayor, then hold me accountable.
Absolutely. That purple tie, you're not a Q, right? I'm just playing with you. I know you're
not. I'm an alpha all day, every day. I don't even know. Yo, Angela is just choosing violence during this right here. Q's, I need you to vote for me, though.
Yeah, shout out to the alphas, though.
Shout out to the alphas. We got our black and gold. I got my alpha pen right there.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
It's way up.
Always.